Thank you very much, Laskin Curline. Can I just leave 2 minutes at the end for Deputy Kelleher? Well, first of all, I want to commend Deputy McGrath for bringing this motion before us, and just to largely concur with what's been said, but I suppose, you know, everybody, and I agree with them, has been criticising the insurance companies and describing the huge profits that they're making, etc. But, you know, what we really have to do is to control what they do. And in any other area of public life where, you know, there's action that's happening that's against the common good, then action will be taken. So what we need is not just to give out about them, essentially, but to actually take the actions that are necessary to control what they do. So I think a number of those are actually in the motion, but certainly we need to see the Minister progress the bill as soon as possible in the Seanad. And maybe I'd start with that, because I was listening to you on radio a couple of weeks ago, Minister, and saying, you know, that essentially you couldn't move forward your bill because of the other bill that was being filibustered in the Seanad, although I think they wouldn't say that they're filibustering, but anyway, it's held up in the Seanad for a long time. But I mean, there's loads of bills in the Department of Justice waiting to be dealt with, so I don't see why it has to be sequential. And I think you have acknowledged now that you can bring in you can bring back in your bill without necessarily waiting for the conclusion of the Minister Ross's bill. But certainly, you know, we need to see that bill. Okay, it's not specifically your bill, it's in the Department of Justice. But I've never understood why they couldn't both be going on at the one time. I mean, there are junior ministers, ministers of state in the Department of Justice who could bring one bill along while the other bill is ongoing at the same time. So I've never understood that argument for the delay in terms of bringing forward the legislation in the Seanad. But I mean, I welcome the clarity you've given us today, and I think we'll all be watching the timetable to ensure that it is complied with, because this is one of the important measures that is required. I think the other area that I really wanted to focus on is the whole area of insurance fraud, of the insurance fraud database, which is referred to in the motion. And I particularly support a section of the motion that calls on the government to legally oblige insurance companies to notify policyholders of claims made against them as claims are made, to inform policyholders of the amount a claim was settled for and the reason why the claim was settled, and to provide a breakdown of premiums. I mean, I think transparency is one of the big issues here, and one of the frustrations for people is that they don't know, businesses or indeed people who are insured, motor insurance or whatever, are not told what's going on. And therefore, you know, there's a huge level of frustration and a huge cost to businesses. And I think retailers estimate that for every €1 allocated to an insurance claim, the business has to make €100 in sales to recoup that amount of money. So it is actually making businesses close down. And I'm particularly concerned about the play centres, indeed the parades and all of the other areas that are affected. But, you know, I know play centres in my own constituency where a huge amount of money has gone into the equipment. And, you know, families get a huge amount of pleasure from going to those places, especially with the kind of weather we have in Ireland. And the idea that all of that investment is put in, that they're a positive experience for families in Ireland, and that they have to close down because of insurance costs, it's just something we can't stand over, and we have to take action on it. And it's not just those centres. I mean, there are lots of other kinds of businesses as well. But I suppose that's one that I particularly feel strongly about. I also just wanted to refer to the Courts and Civil Liabilities Act of 2004 and the issue around fraudulent claims. Now, I understand that in section 26 and 22 of that Act, it actually does permit a court to refer the determination that the claim is fraudulent to the DPP. Now, I don't think that happens very often. But my understanding from my legal friend, Deputy Willie Penrose, that it actually is in the legislation, but maybe the Minister wants to clarify that. But either way, most certainly there has to be a way in which a fraudulent claim can be challenged, because we hear more and more of it, and I'm on the retail support group here, as are a number of other people in the room, and we've heard from businesses about the extraordinary activities of people who make fraudulent claims, who, you know, couple of them together, one will distract, another will you know, pretend to fall or whatever it is. And certainly it's a common practice, and it is putting up premiums and therefore, you know, hurting ordinary people who are trying to run businesses, and the difficulty of running small businesses in particular. One of the big costs is insurance costs. I suppose just briefly to refer to what Deputy Buckley said about flooding, I also know many people in my own constituency who just can't get home insurance because of threats of flooding, even where there are mitigation measures either in place or are about to be put in place. They're still being told that they can't have house insurance, and that has very serious implications for those families. I know it's not specifically in what we're discussing today, but it's certainly related. So I suppose I just want to conclude by saying that I do support the motion. I do hope, Minister, that you will be able to progress things like all of the recommendations of the Cost of Insurance Working Group and the actions of the Personal Injuries Commission. All of those need to be implemented. So, I think in some ways it's very easy to criticise the insurance companies, and we rightly criticise them, but what we actually need to do as legislators is to do something about it and make sure that they can't do what they're currently doing. I just want to make one other point, which is probably considered irrelevant, but I'm the only female in this debate at the moment. There's a debate coming afterwards on period poverty, and I hope at least some of the men in the chamber will stay to participate in that debate as well. Thank you.